Okay, quiet. Good morning and welcome. These are a series of programs to assist parents with the 2020-2021 Edina Public Schools COVID response, particular how to support our staff, students, and parents in hybrid and distance learning. Before we get underway, I want to remind you that we will be taking questions through our Q&A form, and that link is on this slide here. http://bit.ly/PARENT20. We welcome all your questions, and if there's time remaining at the end of this session, we will be happy to answer them. We'll also talk later on in this session about how we can continue to answer your questions as they come up. Let's jump into introductions. My name is Steve Butner, and I'm the director of for Edina Public Schools. With us, we have Sean.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Sean Beaverson, the elementary digital learning specialist for Edina.
And Mike.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Walker, secondary digital learning specialist in Edina.
Today, we'll cover a number of topics, including what is the digital learning philosophy and ecosystem at Edina Public Schools? Remember that at Edina Public Schools, we've leveraged technology for a number of years, and this is more of a continuation of leveraging those same tools, but what will look different and what will look the same for the 2020-2021 year. And more importantly, as a parent, how can you get connected to these technologies and understand how your student is using these technologies? We'll talk specifically about some technology tools, our LMSs, our Google Meets, our Edina Apps ecosystem, and how you and your child will use them. Some of the communication methods that your child will be using with your teachers and your teachers will be using with you, and expectations around those tools. What to expect. What does a day look like? What does a schedule look like for secondary schools and hybrid and EVA? Where do you get support? And then, time permitting, questions answered and additional options for how we can support you. Let's jump right in to talk about the tools. The most important tool for our staff, students, and parents is our Edina Apps portal. We call it Portal for short, and it's the one-stop shop for all or the majority of the applications our staff, our students, and our parents will use in order to be engaged digitally, not only this year, but in previous years and future years. This tool works both on a browser, so you can access it from a computer browser, any computer it works, or from a smartphone, which means that the website is responsive design. So though there's no app for it, you can always bring it up in a browser on a smartphone and log in. And a hint for parents, your username is your last name, period, followed by your first name. Let me show you how that works. Here I am at the portal. You can access the portal by going to portal.edinaschools.org or simply from our website, the main Edina Public Schools website, clicking on the portal link that's in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. You'd enter your username and password and press sign in. Once in, you'll see a series of icons which correspond to the applications that Edina Public Schools use. You notice that we use multiple applications, and the reason for this is that no single application serves any school system for 100% of our needs. So what we've done is taken a best-of-breed approach to find the best application to serve our needs, specifically around technology. Let me go over a couple of those for you. The first one is Schoology. We'll talk a little bit more. That's our LMS. I'll explain that in a moment. Infinite Campus is our student information system. We like to call that our permanent record system. So that's where you find things like schedules, contact information, where you update your contact information, lunch balances, fees, transportation information for your students will be found there. Our tech status page, which we added this spring to allow parents to see if we're having any technology issues and rectify those quickly. Learner's Edge is an awesome tool that we've created that is a parent dashboard to be able to take their children's historical records around assessment, around schedules, course information, and things like that. Greater detail about Campus and Schoology and the difference between those two products. Lunch menus, My Info Update instructions, which you use to designate your instructional preference this year, as well as update contact information. And recently added the Instructional Dashboard, which we'll talk about in a moment. Under the right-hand corner here, I want to point out that you can modify some account settings. You can reset your password, and we encourage you to do that so that it's a password you will remember by using the link Reset Password, as well set a recovery email. By default, no email is set here, so you'll need to do that. And you do that once by putting in an email address that you use. And then if you ever forget your password on the portal, you can use the link to get an email sent to you with the link to reset your password. It's a great way for you to be able to reset your password, self-reset the password when you forget it. So again, here are those images for a parent that they see. And if you ever see your child log in, you'll notice that they have actually more icons because they have access to more applications. They have a Google account, which allows them to have Gmail at the secondary level, their Google Drive, which is where they store their Google documents. They also get access to Destiny, which is our library management system, and other applications that they might be using with their teachers. These applications aren't available for parents because they're just applications that are student and staff driven. But I wanted to make sure you're aware of this because it's important that parents log on using their username and password and students log on with their username and passwords because they'll access different systems as well as different content within those systems. Because of data privacy, it's really important that only you use your username and password and don't share that. The key learning tools that your child will be using is Seesaw and Schoology. Schoology is our learning management system 3 through 12, and Google Meets and Google, which I'd already mentioned. Let's go into a little bit more detail about those. The virtual classroom or our learning management system or LMS for K through 2 is Seesaw, and then grades 3 through 12 is Schoology. So you'll predominantly be using Schoology. Schoology can be accessed both via a browser or an app. And so you could put an app on your smartphone, or you can use it from any computer browser by logging into the portal and clicking on the Schoology link. It is your main window into that classroom, but it is, for a parent, it is a limited window. You don't see all the information because of data privacy and because of security purposes, but you do get a window into what is happening, what's occurring, what are some of the assignments, what is some of the content, what are some of the events and important reminders for each of your child's class. And a little bit later on, we're going to show you how to, but we want to remind you that you should sign up for the announcements. So you get an email reminder as well as notifications from what's happening in that Schoology course. The other tool that we'll be using quite a bit this year, as well as last spring, is Google Meet. This is the district's official video conferencing tool. We chose Google Meet because of its integrated ecosystem and because of its ease of use. It works on any computer, and it has an Android and an iOS app. It allows for a student to be able to access video conferencing anywhere on any device. As a parent or a student, you can also join from a computer or from a phone. This is a nice feature. What that means is that occasionally you might be asked to join a video conference or a Google Meet with your teacher, your child's teacher, and to do so, you can simply dial the telephone number and be bridged into that conference in an audio conference fashion so that you can join in, have conversations, and be able to talk to your teachers, and your child can join in both from a computer and a phone. We want to remind your children and yourself that make sure that you're practicing proper Google Meet etiquette, which is when you join a Google meeting, you mute your audio and then determine whether or not you want video turned on and off. We do, Google Meet is in our walled garden, which means that for students, as long as they're logged on to their Edina apps using their username and password, they can access Google Meets. We are finding that sometimes students are using a different Gmail account or a different account and problems logging onto their Google Meets. And so again, we just want to remind you to make sure that your students, if they're using a Chromebook or using a computer, that they're logged on using their Edina apps username and password. That way they'll be entered into Google Meets easily. I have a link here, and we'll be sharing this slide deck later on in our dashboard on additional instructions around Google Meet that you can use and share with your child. For communications and what to expect, I'd like to hand it over now to Mike Walker.
So at the secondary level, here is a view of what the week will look like for your students. So if they are a hybrid student and they are at the front half of the alphabet, starting on Monday, this coming Monday, they will be attending school on Mondays and Tuesdays face-to-face. They will, students in the back half of the alphabet will be working remotely from home. And our EVA students will also obviously be working remotely from home. And there will be opportunities, as Steve said, through Google Meet for potential synchronous opportunities for students to attend some sessions live on those days when they're working from home. For all of our students on Wednesdays, that is an asynchronous type day where students will be working independently on assigned tasks that teachers have put out there. And that gives us a chance for our staff to get some professional development as well as plan for the following week and get everything organized, meet with their professional learning communities to colleagues to try and organize that. And then on Thursday and Friday in a typical week, the cohort B group, the second half of the alphabet, meets face-to-face with their teachers, and the A group and UVA students are working at home remotely. So for our expectations, and we have those on the dashboard that Steve will show you a little bit later, but for an in-person student, obviously they're going to need to wear a mask from the time they leave from curb to door throughout the day. They're going to follow their social distancing guidelines. They're going to have an ID and lanyard with them at all times in our secondary schools for identification purposes. And they obviously need to attend each of the class periods that they would have during the day. For middle school students, that would be mostly 4 blocks unless they have some shorter skinny classes. And for our high school students, that would be 7 periods during the day. They should bring their device with them fully charged because they may be using that to do some collaboration with students either within their class or even students that are working at home. And then lunch will be served, and it will be socially distanced to help keep everyone safe. At home, students should always log in right away in the morning and check their schedule, see what's going to be happening. Teachers will also be posting this year a weekly overview so that kids know on Thursday I have a synchronous session in this class, and they can get that on their calendar. They're going to have an outline of the week as well as individually for each day what's happening, and students can easily see that when they log into Schoology and look in that upper right-hand corner. They're going to follow those lessons that teachers provide and work either independently, or as I said, there may be opportunities where they're working synchronously with the class. Teachers will have office hours, and students are encouraged to connect with their teacher if they have questions or things like that to help them be successful. The other thing to mention is that for middle school students, they will be taking attendance in their advisory. At Southview, they may be liking a update by their advisory teacher. At Valley View, they will be attending a synchronous Google Meet for attendance purposes and to check in and make sure students know what's happening that day. For the high school, for each class period, there will be an attendance-based assignment that students complete as a way to show that they have attended class if they're working from home. If they're at school that day in the hybrid model, obviously they would be marked present if they are there. So here's what that daily schedule looks like. This happens to be Southview's schedule, where you see every day at 9:20, advisory starts. And so in that case, kids would need to be in class. If they're in a face-to-face and hybrid, they would then also be possibly checking in remotely in EVA, or if they are working from home on those days. Southview has a built-in flex time each day where kids can sign up if they have different needs academically, or if a teacher wants to work with them. And then they follow the remainder of the schedule. You see that each class has block schedules, as well as sixth grade have some skinny schedules for classes that are shorter in length. At Valley View, somewhat similar schedule. The advisory again at 9:20, and this is a Google Meet opportunity, and then they move into their block classes, and you can see those listed there. And for the students who are hybrid in EVA, they'll be checking on Schoology and either working independently or connecting with their class. And then finally, the high school, you can see they have a 7-period day starting at 8:30. So students need to be up a little bit earlier at the high school if they're working from home, and obviously getting on the bus to go in on the days that they're attending face-to-face if they're hybrid. So when a secondary student logs in to Schoology, this is an example of what they might see. This happens to be a high school class. At the middle school, for the most part, they're going to have a video overview of the week that kind of shows what's going to be happening that week. And at the high school, they're going to have maybe a grid that shows each day what's going to be happening that week as an overview. In the upper right-hand corner, that's where, as I said, they're going to see those upcoming assignments. Those assignments are listed by due date, so some may be an assignment. There's also a quiz on this one, or there's an event, calendar event that shows the overview of what's the students are doing that day in class. And so whether students are attending face-to-face or virtually, they will see that information in their Schoology class to help them guide and know what's happening that day in that class. The other thing students can see when they, Steve, if you want to click, is that course content. And so teachers may post their Google Meet links up on top. They may also have the folders with the unit folders with the assignments listed in there. Here you see some examples from this week in a French class at the high school, and where it says ABA, those are those attendance-based assignments that need to be completed by the students working remotely as a way for them to demonstrate attendance in the class that day.
Thanks, Mike. So you might ask, the instruction look like, or what will be covered in my classrooms, in your child's classrooms? And that's a great question. And to help our parents and our students, we created the EPS Family Dashboard. Let me show you what that looks like now. So again, on our portal, we have put this link here for the Instructional Dashboard. When that it brings up our page on the Edina website. We start off with academics information, and so we do have a button for early ELC or early learning, elementary, middle schools, in the high school, as well as other information pertinent to the 2020, 2021, and COVID. The learning models and better definitions and explanation of the learning models. What the district is doing to ensure that our learning is safe. So what practices are we putting in place, like social distancing, wearing a mask? COVID monitoring and what we do when there's suspected cases of COVID. Again, that is governed much by the Minnesota Department of Health and the CDC. Information about transportation, nutrition services, mental health and wellness, not our staff and students, but our families and options there. Athletics and activities, and what is the district doing around that? A general FAQ and a technology button where we put additional information about technology. I'll go into that a little bit later on. Let's take a look at what the middle school academics pages look like. The first thing I like to do is remind parents and students that before coming to school, we're asking that all students every day do the self-screening to ensure that they're coming to school healthy. We want to make sure that we are keeping all of our students safe from illness, and so we want to make sure that everyone is using the COVID self-screening protocols to determine whether or not they should be coming to school. And then we give additional information about the hybrid model and the EVA model, which is our Edina Virtual Academy. Mike talked a little bit about schedules, but here is this week's schedule, the 8th to the 11th, and then after that, what the schedules look like. Then we also have learning descriptors and additional updates for our parents and our students. And when in doubt, you to talk to your teachers, and so you can email your teachers or you can talk to your building principals to get specifics. Just like each one of us are a little bit different, all of our teachers are awesome. They're incredible educators, but they also have a somewhat different approach because the content they teach is different and the students that they teach are different. So if you have a question about instruction or content, make sure you reach out to your teachers. I'm sure they'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
So
go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. So for you as a parent, one of the things that you probably would like to do, some of you have reached out because you've been getting too many notifications from Schoology, or you haven't been getting notifications from Schoology. And so when you are signed in as a parent and you go to Schoology, it's important that you look in the upper right-hand corner to see if you're signed in as you or if you're viewing your student. Now, if you're set up as you, in this case, Minnie Mouse is the parent, if you go down to settings, then click on the notifications tab. This is where you can set notifications on or off in Schoology depending on what you would like to see. So for example, if there is a course update in one of your children's classes, you can turn those on and that will send those course updates to you. You can also turn on course comments and other things there as well. Or if you don't need to see those updates, you can turn them off. Down at the bottom, you can also turn on the school updates so that if the school actually sends out an announcement via Schoology, you would see that update. And most of the time that's going to happen if there's a special event or something happening that the school might send out that update. So you can turn those on or off there. You can also, on the right-hand side, if you want to get text messages from Schoology, you can set your phone up in order to receive them. So that's when you have your parent name showing in the upper right-hand corner. That's how you can get to those notifications. If you go down to one of your children, and you can pick any one of your children, Steve's picking Marvin here, this is what you see when you log in as to view your students' work, and you'll click on that enrollments link in the upper right. So there's student activity and there's enrollments. And one of the nice things about enrollments is it gives you a quick overview of how your child is doing. So you'll see the classes listed that they're taking and the current grade, because Schoology is our official grade book in grades 6 through 12. So that's a quick look to see what grades look like. If you want to see more detail about a grade, you can go into the grade report and get to that information, or go into the individual class and you can see that information. So if Steve clicks on an individual class there, you can see all the information that a student sees, and you can even view your child's work and grades right there. And if you click the little chevrons next to a specific title, you can see more details if there is any. This is just a sample. So the other thing to view is, once you're viewing as a student, as one of your children, and you click on that down arrow next to their name in the upper right, you can go down to settings for on the child, and this will do this for all of your children. You can click settings and notifications here, and this is where you can set up a weekly or daily digest. And this is kind of a after the fact, but it shows the current progress of your child, if there's any outstanding assignments, what their grades they received, what work is coming up, and it will give you an email that has all of your children on it. And so in some cases, it could be rather long, but it gives you a really good detail of what's happening, what happened during that week or during that day in classes. So you can set this up for weekly. Maybe you want to set it up for Friday night at 5. Kids may have plans for the weekend, and you can kind of look and say, oh, you've got your assignments done. Great. Go ahead and do those plans, or maybe you need to get them done if they're not. You can also turn on notifications. So if something is overdue, you will get an email notification on that. And once you save those changes, then that will be set up permanently for you to receive those digests to support you. There's also a calendar built into Schoology. And so for each child, you can go in and see what activities and things have been assigned for that child on a given day.
So the expectation is your child is bringing a device to school every day. And so we want to make sure that that device is working properly. And so we ask that your child charges that device up. And so that child is bringing a fully charged device, or has a fully charged device at home, so they can hit the ground running and not have technology create a problem for their learning. But we do know that sometimes, from some time to time, we forget our usernames and passwords, or we're having problems. And the DMTS department, or our department, is there to support you. We have 2 ways to support our staff, students, and parents. The first is through a help desk telephone number, and that number is 952-848-4915. That is answered from 7 a.m. until 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. If you receive a message in our off hours, leave a message. We'll call you back at the next business day. Or you can email to support@Edina Public Schools, and that's put into our ticketing system process, and so that we're able to get that ticket to the right person to answer that question. If a parent has an issue with their username and password with Edina apps, we ask that you email parentportal@edinaschools.org, where we will help reset your password and get you back up and running. And we know that from time to time, those computers or those Chromebooks act up. We know that our students are great users of those devices. And so if you're having issues, I have a link to some FAQs to help troubleshoot those issues. Generally, Chromebooks are nice because all they need is a restart and they work again. Sometimes they don't work, or sometimes damage happens to those and they're out of commission. In those cases, we ask that you send a support ticket to a support@edinapublicschools.org. That's our help desk again, our ticketing system. Please provide your student's name. If you know your student's number, please put that in the school that student works or attends, and that way we can get a replacement device out. If your child is in the hybrid, they can also go to the media center to work on getting a replacement device or troubleshooting assistance. If your child is in the EVA or Edina Virtual Academy or is at home for those days that they're at home, they can always, again, send a support ticket, and you can come and arrange to have a device picked up at the Edina Community Center. So we're offering 2 places, depending on if your child's in session in a school. They can work with the media specialist at their school, or if they're EVA, or if there's some of their days when they're at home, they can come to the Edina Education Center to get a replacement device. Please note that what we do is we check in your child's device and we provide a substitute device. If it is a privately owned or a personal device, we can't repair those devices, but we'll provide where you can get that device fixed. And we can provide a loaner device. There's no charge for a loaner device. If there is neglect or damage caused to the device due to neglect, there is a $30 fee per repair. And so there will be a repair fee in your campus fees that we'll ask you to pay for. But again, we want to make sure that technology is working. So let's get a device in your hand of your child so that there's no issues going forward. Well, we've reached the end of our presentation, but we know there's probably some questions that you may have. And so at this time, we'll answer any questions. Sean, has there been any questions?
Nope. Steve and Mike, you did a wonderful job, and I'm monitoring the form. So if people do have questions, a reminder that you can submit them at that short URL that is on the screen right now so that we can answer those questions for you.
Great. Well, just in closing, Mike, do you have any closing thoughts or closing recommendations for our parents and how they support their children this year?
Yeah, I think, have your child pull up their device and show you things. One of the things we want students to leave Edina with is kind of some agency in order to solve problems and work through things. And so the more you can allow them to do that, encourage them to reach out to their teacher if something isn't working as well, to make sure, like if a video isn't playing or something isn't working, that sometimes it's something the teacher may have done that can be fixed. And we are always there to support you. This is a partnership, and we want to support you so that you and your child can be successful this school year. And so anything we can do to help with that, we're happy to do. So.
I couldn't have said it better, Mike. Thank you very much. And thank you all for attending this video. We will post this video on the dashboard, and we will leave the link available for any additional or future questions that you may have. But that's all for now. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.